Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. I'm doing some remodeling in the garage. Anyway, back in early 2021, I bought a project. Actually, I didn't buy it, but I had a pretty awesome little Suzuki FZ50 moped. And I swapped that one for the most amazing project car. I think probably the most fun project that I have had on this channel. And that was the Skoda 105. It had been off the road since around 97. I think 3 out of 4 wheels were completely stuck. It was a nightmare to move that car. It was a nightmare to get it onto the trailer, and even worse to get it off again. This video is going to be a short edit of all the videos in the Skoda series. I would highly advise you to check the playlist out down below if you think it's interesting, because there is a lot of details that will not be in this video. There's a lot of repairs that will not be in this video because there is hours of video material. But here we go. This is the short story of the Skoda 105. The story is that this car has been in the same family for all its life. I was told that the car has done 50,000 kilometers only. I don't know if that is true, and it's difficult to actually be sure of, because the speedometer on old cars like this only goes to 100,000 kilometers. But I think we maybe can get a clue if that's true by looking at the car and the wear and so on. Cars in Denmark like to rot really quickly, and a Skoda is no exception. One of the big reasons there are not many of these around is because of rust. And we do have rust in the wheel arches, but it's actually not that bad. It looks pretty solid actually in the rear wheel arch in here. Wow, this is, if it is like this all the way around, it's almost too good to be true. This is really, really good. The wheel seems to be very old, made in Czechoslovakia. So these wheels are for Czechoslovakia, and the car is from Czechoslovakia. So I wonder if these are the original from new tires. Whoop. A lunchbox, maybe. Ah. I have a feeling that cars from this era and owners from this era actually really enjoyed taking care of their cars and their stuff in general, and try to protect it and keep it as new as for as long as possible. I can see inside the car that the car actually got seat covers on it, and sometimes it's because the seat underneath is completely ripped, but other times it's people who really enjoy taking care of their cars that put the covers on top of perfect seats to keep the seats perfect for as long as possible. Oh. There are no rips or no tears in this. Of course, it's the other side that sees most wear. But yeah, it's dirty, but nothing a vacuum cleaner can't solve. But they seem brand new. I think this car has been bought, and then the owner took it back home and then put covers on it. I don't think anyone has really sat in these seats. The oil has been changed at 49,406 kilometers. It's in 97. That's old oil. 50,743, that's 1,000 kilometers later. That actually adds up pretty nice. I think this car has only done that from new. That is amazing. And also take a look, I just saw this. The pedals have almost no wear on them, so that makes me think that 50,000 is very realistic, because these rubbers tend to be worn down like tires from your feet when pressing and holding your foot on them. They have not seen a lot of action, that's for sure. No visual rust underneath the jack. Again, that's pretty amazing. Here we have the engine. I wonder if there's any oil in it still from 97. there is, and it's not looking very dirty. When this oil was put into this engine, it was a very different world than it is now. And everything looks very dirty, but still looks very unused and new. I think a lot of this is just dirt, and we can clean it up very nicely. Yeah, take a look at this. I wonder if I can turn the engine by hand. That would be maybe a bit too amazing. Well, we're gonna save that for a later date. The next video will most likely be Will it run? If you are a regular viewer of my channel, you will notice that everything is different in here right now because I'm doing quite a bit of remodeling to the garage. I would like some more space to be able to work on 2 projects at one time. Therefore, I'm doing some remodeling. Anyway, a very important thing in my small garage when I get a project car is to make it possible to move it in and out, because I also work on other stuff from time to time. And it's hard for me to have a project car hanging on the lift for long. Therefore, it's quite important to get them to start. So I started to work on that engine, and that's where I really realized that I have gotten quite a new car, very old car, but it was really unused, had very low kilometers on the clock, and everything just woke up so brilliantly on that car. And this is really a make it or break it moment, at least for this video. Not for the car. I'm going to get this car running pretty much no matter what, because I really like it. But let's see. Yes. It is turning.
Kapacitet ud i udviklingen. Taliban geschlossen hat, Estelle.
So everything seems to work for it to actually fire up, but we'll need to get some fuel to the engine. If I am extremely lucky, then this car has been run out of fuel before put away. I hear no splashing around, so I think this tank is completely empty. Let's just try turning the key. I know that fuel is at least at the pump now. Nothing really. Let's try. Yes! Wow! Already. Wow. Wow. So considering that car had stood in a barn for over 20 years, I was quite surprised at how easily it started. I don't know how many times it had been started in the barn, but it was really an easy revival. It was pretty much just some fuel and corrosion on the points, and then it was running. It wasn't running perfect, but it was running. The Skoda engine is a little bit special because very often you will find iron blocks with aluminum cylinder heads, but on the Skoda it's the other way around. It's an aluminum engine block with a cast iron cylinder head, and it's a bit weird. If it overheats, you will get into trouble because you will warp the engine block and not the cylinder head, and that's a bit complicated to fix. But with the engine running, the next issue was that it was not possible to move it because the wheels were stuck, and also the brakes needed a lot of servicing. Again, it was a fun experience to work on because I was dealing with stuff that seemed new, just old, pads were not very worn, and also the liners and the brake drums was pretty new. They just had fallen off because of age, and pretty much everything needed to be done. And it's very stock. Oh, there's a bit of movement. That's great news. Got the wheels spinning. It can now spin freely in one direction, also in the other one, but it gets stuck a little bit, and then you can go over a hard point and then getting into spin again. That tells me that the brake liner has fallen off and is getting stuck when you turn direction. There we go, we got it off. But the liners are not that worn, they're just fallen off. Everything is just a joy to work on. Ta-da! Let's just cross our fingers that it's going to work and be fine for now at least. Like that. Like that. There we go. You can see, maybe, I don't know if it picks up, the piston is beginning to move. Like that. So we got it down a bit. I need to put the dust seal on now before putting it all the way in. Like this. This is one piston done. There we have it. One rebuilt brake caliper for my wonderful Skoda 105. So let's fit a new brake disc. And actually the old brake disc is not that bad, but it's, yeah, I bought a new one. And it should be refaced, this one at least, so it's going to be good. Yes. We should be able to just slide this on, like so. And then suddenly, with the engine running and the brakes working, I could actually begin to see an MOT in the distance. But there was a lot of small stuff that needed to be fixed. Of course, the exhaust was really leaking. Someone in the past had tried to fix it with metal paint cans. It was a bit of an artwork actually. So I needed to fix that, of course. I needed to drain and flush the coolant system and make sure that everything worked in that system. As mentioned, it's very important not to overheat these engines. So I needed to know that the fans were working. I needed to know that the thermos switch was working and all that. So that needed to be done before it was ready for an MOT. So let's begin to install this piece of kit. Here it comes. Masterpiece of a farm-style repair on an exhaust system with Gori cans. Like that. Bam, bam. Wow! Oh yes, it looks completely clean, Wow, oh, I'm so lucky with this car. That was not very well thought through. Welcome to Seaside Garage Science Lab. 57 degrees. 77, 81, right there at 90 degrees, it opened. Wow, I can hear the entire car gurgling right now. This car got a drinking problem. And then this rubber can be taken off. And then a new dust cap with some grease in it. But I have decided to actually try to order. Now I know how they look exactly, so I can order the correct set of steering knuckles, because this will work fine, but they are worn and they should be changed. So I'm going to change them. These are number plates that you can buy in Denmark to be allowed to move a car or test a car or going to an MOT. Of course, the car has to be in okay condition and not too dangerous, but this got the insurance and all that. And this one only works for 1 day. That depends on how much you pay for them, but as you can see, it's the 3rd of May today, and that's the day that I can use them only. But to pass the MOT, all the lighting needs to work. Nothing can be broken. Everything needs to work. Working. And then it's just a brake light. That is always a bit difficult to check. But I have used a broomstick. And like with many of my project cars, remember, I don't restaurate, I revive. I don't make stuff perfect. I just want the cars to get back on the road, enjoy it, and then pass them on to some other enthusiast in the future. And with the Skoda especially, it was just a matter of suddenly realizing that the car was ready. It was ready for an MOT. And I drove it there with pretty high confidence in the car, and I drove home even happier. Is now MOT'd, and it actually got number plates on it and everything, and it's running superb, even though it's not a superb. It's a 105S or Estelle. And turning up at the MOT station in this car was quite fun. The MOT man told me he was testing 10 to 15 cars a week at least of this kind 15 years ago, of course. And now they were completely gone. He didn't see any of them. But he did remember where to look, because especially the rear trailing arms tend to rust and corrode quite badly. And he knew exactly where to hit with his hammer. And there was nothing. The car was just perfect. And actually it went through the MOT without any issues. There was nothing to put a finger on. And that is pretty rare when it comes to my cars, at least. There is always something. This is my Skoda at max power. Woohoo! 80 kilometers. This is it. But one thing I learned through the years of reviving old barn finds like that is that the MOT is not the end of the journey. The first weeks after the MOT is where things starts to show. And I can't remember how many times a head gasket, for instance, has blown a week or two after the MOT. That's just normal stuff. The heat cycles is really something that wrecks stuff, or at least reveals if they are up to the task. And it was no different with the Skoda. Even though it passed the MOT, I think it's the best MOT I have ever been to, because it passed first time around with no issues, and that doesn't happen a lot with my cars. But after a couple of weeks it started to break down in different ways, and there was a lot of small stuff to fix. And here we have the new one. And then like that. Now I'm just going to do it part by part and change all the rubbers and so on. There we go. It's off. Even with a dead battery, this Skoda is amazing. Wow. And as it always happens when I get a car through an MOT, actually almost all the time, there's only one car that it hasn't happened to so far, but after a while I end up selling them because I want to buy the next project, and my goal is pretty much to sell the previous project car to afford the next project and the parts. So it's kind of a circular economic with my cars. I don't really make a lot of money on them. I just get the money back to buy the next project, and then the projects gets bigger and bigger. And of course the Skoda were no different. I drove it for quite a while and had a lot of fun in that car. And then I put it up for sale, and a great guy called Anton contacted me and wanted to buy it, but he was not up for the task to drive it home because it was far away, and I think he was in his mid-80s. He had a little collection, or actually a small museum, with old stuff, cars, dolls, so much different kind of stuff. And he wanted a Skoda in that collection, and my Skoda was pretty much perfect for that. So even though it was a bit sad to pass the car on, it was a great experience to give it to Anton. My main interest is finding the projects, fixing them up, of course also driving them and experience them for a while. And of course it would be cool to just keep them all, but on the other hand, I don't like cars that just stand around. I want them to live and drive. They have been produced in this world, and in my book, the most important thing to do now is to use them. Don't just store them, because they are not built for that. But the last drive in the Skoda, 2.5 hours drive in the Skoda, was an awesome day. The weather was perfect, everything was perfect, and that car was awesome to drive. You join me 1 hour into a 2.5 hour journey in the Skoda. Oh, this hill is rather steep. I'm just gonna drop down into third gear. It's very steep. It's one of those hills that is so steep that I just have to check if the handbrake is dragging or something like that. We don't have that many hills in Denmark actually. Unfortunately, it's going to be my last trip in the Skoda as far as I know, because the Skoda is sold. And as always, that breaks my heart. But it is just necessary because I want to have another project as always. And to be able to afford that, I would have to sell one of the other ones. And this time, it's the Skoda. I traded my Suzuki FZ50 for this car. Impressive. Wow. which was a great deal. I didn't know that because this car was standing outside when I picked it up and I was expecting it to be completely rotten. It was a great trade. I sold this car to a guy called Anton. Anton is in his mid-80s, but is still very much active in the car world and enjoys quirky and weird cars and other stuff apparently. He bought this car a while back actually, but he was not up for the task to drive it to his place. So I offered to drive it to his place, and at the same time he actually have a collection that I would really like to see. So that makes the journey very much worth it. Wow. Så er der dukker.
Jeg kan godt se det.
Så er der temmelig mange. Hold nu op. Ja, jeg hører over, den virker.
Ja, det var ikke derfor jeg.
Nej. And actually he got 4 Goggo mobiles.
Ja, det er sjovt. Jeg har også haft mange af de her ting.
Ja.
Ja.
Der har været 3 ejere siden dig. Ja, men den passer jo godt hertil. Det synes jeg godt nok. Perfekt. And that marks the end of the journey for the Skoda 105. And I just started making these revival story videos where I edit all the videos down into one, because I have actually revived quite a lot of projects through the last 3 or 4 years where I have been making videos. And they are sort of like just disappearing down there, all those videos. And it's fun to try to revive that content a little bit. And also, I realized how much fun it is for myself to rewatch the stuff that I did to those cars. Of course, I hadn't forgotten the Skoda, but I have forgotten some of the emotions that it gave me while reviving it. So it's a lot of fun for me to watch these videos and edit them down to a small video about the revival of the cars. So that's fun. If you want to watch everything in details, there's a playlist down below in the description where you can watch a couple of hours of revival video on the Skoda 105. I have to get done with all this so I can get started with all the projects. I got the new Porsche that I need to start work on. There's another project just behind me that I also need to start work on. There is the Mahari, and I also actually just sold my daily. I know that will come as a shock to some of you, but yeah, it's just part of the game in my garage. That's how I roll. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.